'Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bad Ideas Podcast. Today we're going to be going over a couple of ghost stories, I think, right?
Perchance.
All right. I think we're going to start this episode off with Jake over here. He said he's got a ghost story or two.
All the hosts, at least.
Oh, should I introduce? All right, so you guys just aren't that important, you know? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's
all right,
that's
so we got William Ratcliffe.
Oh.
We have Wyatt Cecil, Jacob Hughes, and myself, Tyson Shoup. We will be beginning this episode, as said before, with Jacob Hughes. And start us off.
Okay, so I have two stories to tell. The first one will start in chronological order. The first one was when I was young enough that I can't even remember this. And we were living in a decently ghetto apartment.
Pause. How are you going to recite this if you can't remember this?
I can't remember this.
Okay. Whatever, man. All right, keep going.
The whisper was insane.
Pretty much, we were living in this ghetto neighborhood in these really ran down apartments, which maybe you'd look at and be like, okay, there's going to be some ghosts, but not really what came to our mind immediately. And I was about the age of maybe 2-3 years old. My mom was in the room next door. My dad was at work. He would work graveyard shifts, so we didn't see him too often. And my mom came into the room because all my toys were going off in the middle of the night and I was supposed to be asleep. Well, I guess I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Can you tell them to knock it off?" By them, I'm pretty sure I was talking about ghosts, but maybe I was incorrect.
Maybe, huh?
Second story happened when I was about the age of between 10 and 12 years old, and I was home alone by myself, sleeping in my bedroom. I had my black dog next to me. Shout out Roscoe. And he is sitting at the bottom of the stairs and he starts howling. And I was curious what was going on. And so I walk out of my room. It's maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And I hear some banging coming from downstairs. And so I go, obviously, as the dumb white person that I am, to investigate. Yeah, that's why we die first in horror movies, let me remind you. So I turn the corner, and I quite literally see the cabinet door slammed shut from fully wide open, and nobody else is in that house besides me. I feel like that kind of speaks for itself.
I could definitely see that.
Those are the main two that I've had. I don't know if any of our other hosts have anything to share with us.
I think I got about like maybe two stories. One that's kind of meaningful, but I'll speak with the one that's like where it's kind of almost spooky, but it isn't.
All right, start with Will then.
Okay, so I think about maybe 2 years ago, I was living in an apartment, but I was about like 10, 11, and usually you think like apartments aren't gonna be spooky or anything because of like, it's like either you rented it out, so it's like basically almost brand new, so nobody's gonna clearly be dead in there. But
Yeah.
there was some moments where like on the weekend, my mother and her boyfriend would have to work. So I'd be the one home alone, clearly. Usually not at the kind of age that you want your kid to be home alone at, because he'll probably do stupid stuff. There would be a consistent time where I heard footsteps coming down the hallway that led to the two bedrooms and one bathroom. Now, as what Jake said, it's how you die first in horror movies. So my stupid self got up, goes to the hallway, and just speaks, "Is anybody here?" Yeah, kind of ridiculous, right? Because you're like, clearly nobody's gonna talk to you. And I kid you not, that the time I sat back down, I started hearing my name being whispered to me down the hallway, and it was like distant too. So it was like probably coming from the room. Yeah, I never went down that room, so I mean that's the only thing. The other one's kind of meaningful, but it's not spooky at all. So.
Do tell.
If anybody else has a thing to chime in with, maybe Wyatt.
Wyatt?
Block
Yeah.
bats.
Wyatt's playing Block Blast over
Speaking of Block Blast,
What's the high score?
Episode
here. What's your Block
episode
Blast
sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. No,
I'll take it.
Oh God, we were up in Oregon. We
His
were
high
visiting.
score is
It's 21,000.
21,000 high score.
21,000.
All right, keep going. Sorry.
We were up in Oregon. We were visiting my father's mother.
her husband, so my dad's stepdad, I guess. He's a professional welder, so he helps us with a lot of the work we do on the truck that we own. Oh God, this was a year or two ago. It was one of the nights we were staying there. They only have one guest room. That's where my dad is. So I'm laying there on the couch. It's like 11:30 at night. I'm doom scrolling like Instagram or something, and I'm like, damn, I should really go to bed.
Language.
My bad. I was like, oh, it's getting pretty late. I should go to bed. I'm gonna be up decently early in the morning working on this car. I put my phone down, and I swear to the Lord on high, as soon as I looked out her front door, because it's one of the big ones that has a glass section in the middle, I saw this woman, like, you know when you're like right out of the shower and your hair's still wet, so it like strings together.
Oh, you got one of those, bro?
Yeah, it was like that,
dude.
but it's like she leaned over, so her hair was coming down off her shoulder,
So like the
and it was
ring
like
kind of thing?
the light, because there's a lumber mill down the road from where she lives. The light was coming through that front door, and it was spooky. I was terrified. Because I glanced up at that door. I looked down, checked at my phone. It took me a second to process what happened. I looked back up and it was gone. It was like full like white dress, black hair. That shit was spooky.
I bet.
That was really one of the only big experiences I've had. There have been times where I've been up late at night and my parents' room door will be open, and I'll like come out the bathroom and that it's just pitch black, even though the window open. It's like just a void. I see that a decent amount. So
Just like a simple question. You know, we want to keep horrors kind of funny and everything. So, was the ghost down bad, like hot as hell, or?
Language.
Yeah. Come on,
But
bud.
attractiveness.
The
level-
Hodesters would not be proud.
The Hodesters would not be
Was
proud.
the
The hostess-
attractiveness like there that you just kind of
I
wanted
didn't
to walk up to her?
It
almost?
wasn't really. It was like, honestly, it was more of like the back. Like I didn't see the face. It was more of just like
Okay,
the
so
hair
was
and like a
you know where
dress.
we're talking from behind was round.
That's crazy, Will.
This is
Cool.
a
No.
school-appropriate podcast, bud.
That's why I'm
I
saying
would-
round from behind. You know.
I would say that it was not. I didn't really get a good look
That's
at it.
fair. I understand. Tyson, I mean, do you have anything to include?
You said you had another one. But
No.
it
I
wasn't-
was
that wasn't
genuinely
that
trying to
bad.
ask a question. The other one is a meaningful thing, so it's really no spookiness.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, I do have one or two. Let's start with, I was probably 7 or 8. So there used to be this old couple that lived next door to my house. I live kind of on the corner, and they used to, there's a old guy, he was about 65, and an old woman who was about 70. But at some point, the old guy, he passed away. I can't really remember his name. But he passed away before his older wife, and nothing really happened with him. He was super cool. He used to like race RC trucks and stuff, so that was kind of neat. I remember he went to every single, what's it called? The monster truck shows.
Monster Jams.
Monster Jams, yeah. He brought me to a couple of them, so he was really cool. I like that guy a lot. But later on, the old lady who was his wife, she at some point also passed away a couple years after he did. But the issue with that was, well, I don't want to call it an issue, but she didn't have any family. So when she passed away, nobody found out for a couple of months. So that house took forever to get sold because she passed away in her living room sitting on the couch, and nobody found her body, and it just kind of rotted there for a couple months. And this was right next door. We didn't know a thing until the police came by and asked us how long it had been since we've seen her. And then this was about a week or two after her death. I didn't really have nightmares or anything about it, so it wasn't like, this was traumatizing to me or anything. But at some point, I remember I was laying in my bed, and it was about like 8 p.m., so like bedtime. And because I was, 8 or 9, so bedtime. And I remember very vividly, still to this day, I remember seeing like the apparition of an old lady on the sitting on the foot of my bed at one night. Like after my parents had put me to bed, but the hall light was still on, so I could still see into my room and stuff. And I swear to this day that I saw that old lady who died next door sitting, on the foot of my bed. And I think she said something to me, but I didn't hear it, or I can't remember what she said. But there were words spoken, or her mouth moved. So, and then a couple years after that, this is, that was kind of the end of the creepy part a little, but a couple years after that, it was 6th grade, I think. So I was 10. And me and my friend Marvin, we found these, you guys ever use the ghost hunter apps where you send a location and it he'll give you a ghost to talk to? We did that once. And we did it next to my house at that old lady's house. And we got a response from a ghost on one of those, iPhone ghost hunter apps, and it said it was her name, and it gave us a couple of pieces of information that sounded familiar to me. But I mean, it's one of those iPhone apps, you can't really trust it. But was another part of that story. So, does anybody else have anything? Any questions, comments, another story?
I don't think I have myself any more personal experiences, but I've had stories told for me from my parents, directly from my father. When he was living down in Oregon, he raised dogs. He was in a dog kennel. They raised pit bulls and Rottweiler and stuff.
He was in a dog kennel?
Well,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, he helped raise them and stuff.
All right.
And apparently in his room, outside the hallway, there was a ceiling fan.
All right.
There was a ceiling fan in that hallway, and what he says is that he would be looking at it, and it'd be spinning in a circle, and he'd go the other way, and that light, that cord hanging down from that ceiling fan would be going clockwise. He'd say go the other way, and it'd start spinning the other direction.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's weird.
Definitely.
God, I was out camping one time, and doing standard camping shenanigans.
Yeah.
We're staying up past when we were supposed to be in bed. I'd say it was probably around 11, 12 at night. I mean, this is pretty up late at night for an 8-year-old. And I was up messing around with one of my siblings in the tent, and we heard footsteps outside walk directly by, which was weird because we could hear my dad snoring in the other tent.
It wasn't him.
So it wasn't him, and we know for sure it wasn't my mom because she didn't move at all.
She's dead or something?
No, they were off in their own.
Yeah.
They might have. I think actually they were in the same tent as us, and no, it was weird because someone just walked by our campsite. We were not really in any actual camping grounds, so there shouldn't have been anything near us.
Kind of going off your camping story, I do have a short story about a couple of occurrences. This is less on the supernatural side, more on the just straight up scary side. I was camping. This has happened 3 times now. I've never gone up to Lake Tahoe and camped in this spot without seeing a bear in my campsite. At one point, one came up pretty close to our campsite. This was the first time I went out to this particular spot, and my dog named Yoshi, he saw the bear first and chased it into the woods. We all kind of thought he was going to die, and it was sad, and then he came back and was fine, so that was nice. And then the time after that, me and my dad both skateboard, and we like to longboard down hills and stuff. And this was a pretty nice, smooth hill going up to this campsite. So what we did was we, started bombing and carving down this hill. And then a bear pops out and starts chasing my dad for a couple of feet. And we look through the tree line and we see, the cubs and stuff, and we don't see the mama. And then it busts out onto the road and starts chasing my dad down the road. And then onto the 3rd time, It was nighttime and I was in my tent. We were still at the same spot. I don't really know why we kept going up to the same spot with bears every time, but we did. We came up and I was in my tent and I was starting to sleep. I had both the dogs in my tent, and then a bear came up straight to my tent and rubbed against my tent, and so I freaked out. And this was like only a year ago. This was last year, so that was pretty nuts. Anyway, this has been a 15-minute podcast, and
One thing.
those okay.
I do want to actually include something. It's not horror. It's like nothing to do with ghost or anything. But there was a thing when me and Jake were in middle school with our friend Hunter. That little creepy abandoned house.
Oh, the abandoned house.
Dude, straight good memories and stuff kind of it. So we always thought something bad went there because, you know, it's broken windows, abandoned. You got boarded up doors. I mean, the only thing that kind of creeped us out was like whenever we stepped in there, it was an eerie feeling, definitely. Like you could feel all the like kind of negative and stuff. Like you didn't want to be there. So being the idiot middle schoolers we were, so we just kept going in. Every single time we passed it, we'd say like, oh yo, let's just like go in it, let's hop in it. There'd be some times where we just had to play jokes on each other. Like one of us goes in, then we all start booking it, and that guy gets scared.
Yeah.
I think you guys actually did that to me one time, so that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird place. There was a time, and as you would expect with an abandoned house, there wouldn't be any sort of lights or anything, any sort of power. This place, you could tell, had been abandoned for at least a year. And from what we had actually heard, it had been abandoned for several years, close to actually, I believe, almost a decade.
This house was still being paid for too.
Yeah, somebody did end up buying the place while it was still technically abandoned.
So it was a notice of eviction. We saw it on the boarded door.
Yeah. But as you'd expect, no electrical power or anything. And our old buddy from middle school, Hunter Gardner, goes inside.
That's a crazy name.
He goes inside and he feels air coming from the vent, and it feels like cool, fresh AC. And he walks into the kitchen, and the microwave is on, and there's something plugged into the outlet, like a little night light that was also powered. So the place was getting AC and power, as at the time we had known the place was not owned and was abandoned. So a little bit of an eerie vibe when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, no, and I mean that one time when we kept exploring it, you know that chair that was sitting in the middle of the room?
Yeah.
One thing you never do is you never sit in it. I don't even know if one of us did sit in
No, I
it
don't
as a
think
joke,
so.
or I think like we kicked the chair and we just pretend like something was gonna come after us.
Yeah.
But remember when we were walking and we never noticed that little attic that sat in the hallway, so we always walked
yeah.
under it? And I pointed it out and we all actually got hella scared because we're like, someone's got to be living in there. If there's power, you know someone took up that attic or something to hide away from something. So we all just booked out of there. I mean, that's kind of the only best thing about it. That was probably at least a little bit of horror to us as middle schoolers because, you know, we're going to get scared of anything. We're like little girls almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
All right.
I think that wraps things up.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, that was our almost 20 minutes now podcast.
Take it,
And
Pause.
thank you all for listening, or thank you, the Hodes, for listening, because
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to put this in front of the class, but
I mean, if he does, like, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you all for listening. This has been our podcast. This is the Bad Ideas Inc. podcast. There will most likely be more episodes coming soon. So have a good night, everybody, and we will see you later.